Well, thanks for coming, you guys. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a digital marketing company that had a truly horrible, no good, very bad year, okay? You guys remember that old children's book, Alexander and the Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day? Made a big impression on me. But this, fortunately, this digital marketing company that I'm going to tell you about is actually a product of kind of an amalgamation of different stories, different experiences I've had in my professional experience as a lawyer in this space. I have a small law firm in Austin, Texas that specializes in kind of advertising and marketing and promotions law, and just seeing recurring stories over and over and over again on some of these issues, it occurred to me that maybe I should put together a guide or a toolkit for folks in this space that can kind of serve as a reference for purposes of kind of navigating some of these commonly occurring problems in this space. So that's why I've written this or put together this toolkit. But the purpose of the story I'm going to tell you today is really to illustrate a fundamental tension between business objectives on the one hand and legal priorities on the other. Excuse me. There is a fundamental tension between business objectives and legal priorities. I've experienced it throughout my career, both as a general counsel for an online ad network and just in private practice. And it really does require a very nuanced and careful approach to balance those two objectives between business objectives, where on the one hand the business wants to maximize opportunity. On the legal side, lawyers typically want to reduce risk to the maximum amount, and that tension can be very difficult to resolve, and I've seen the balance kind of on both sides be imbalanced in the sense that, well, where the company is too risk averse, it fundamentally just kind of paralyzes the company from doing any kind of meaningful operations. Or on the other side, which is unfortunately more common in my experience, there's simply not due regard for legal risk, right? So that's what led me to write this toolkit, so that folks in this space can kind of strike that balance with a little bit more effectively. So legal wants to minimize risk, the business wants to maximize opportunity, legal wants to formalize relationships and processes, the business wants to stay nimble and act quickly, and so the toolkit is really intended to enable businesses to strike that balance more effectively. And so I have some printout copies of the toolkit for you to take home. I will post a digital copy on our website at some point when I get back home. But I should have enough for everybody in this room in a hard copy format. So just come up after the presentation and we'll dole those out. So that brings me back to the story that I mentioned earlier, which the story about the digital marketing company that had a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. So after we go through this story and this parade of horribles, we will have hopefully a little bit of time to talk about some of the issues that I raised, and we can kind of unpack some of those questions and have a little bit of a short conversation on them. So let's call our unlucky digital marketing company Pied Piper, in a nod to the painfully funny and really spot-on HBO series that I hope some of you at least have seen, called Silicon Valley. I highly recommend it. It's a kind of a cautionary tale for entrepreneurs generally in its own right, so I definitely recommend it. But our company is Pied Piper in this hypothetical. So Pied Piper is the brainchild of 3 digital marketing innovators whose vision is to create a lead aggregation marketplace spanning multiple verticals and revolutionizing the way brands and publishers do online advertising. Everything starts out great. The founders are moving at a breakneck pace, and they're getting their product wireframed. They're getting to minimum viable product stage. They're almost ready to launch. But then something happens. One of the 3 partners who have this wonderful idea for a new digital marketing platform decides to drop out, right? So this founder completely goes off the grid. And so there's complete radio silence. Unfortunately, there is no written agreement outlining what happens in this scenario. So the remaining founders just kind of look at each other and shrug and say, well, we can do it without him, right? And so they just trudge ahead and continue to work on their digital marketing platform so that they can get it to a minimum viable product stage and start making some revenue. Unfortunately, the missing founder was the company's primary developer. So the company decides to use a white label lead aggregation platform on a yearly subscription basis to kind of expedite the development process. It's expensive, but the company decides to take the plunge since they plan on standing up their own platform within the next 12 months. Kind of a replacement for what they were going to build, and they're going to continue working on it, but this will allow them to get to market. So after going through about 15 cases of Red Bull, the remaining Pied Piper team is finally ready to launch their new product. Amazingly, they're even able to get the guy who owns the piedpiper.com domain to sell it to them for a song. It's owned by a now defunct data compression company. Anyway, it's time to sell. So they embark on a multi-channel business-to-business marketing campaign to recruit affiliates, publishers, and brand advertisers. In fact, their campaign is so effective, it even gets the attention of a few major media outlets, including Netflix, Hulu, and HBO. Unfortunately, HBO's attention isn't the kind you want. They get a letter, our founders in Pied Piper get a letter from HBO's general counsel that says, hey, guess what? We have a trademark. You're infringing on our copyright. You're infringing on our trademark. And you're going to have to stop doing business or we're going to have a big problem. In fact, we've already noticed GoDaddy about your domain, and you are no longer able to access it pending a resolution of the investigation that they've started based on trademark infringement. So good luck with all of that. And in one fell swoop, their Pied Piper domain goes away, and and all of the marketing capital that they've spent to generate interest in Pied Piper is wasted. They put $15,000 on their credit card, all of which was for Pied Piper, and none of which is useful anymore. Not a good scenario. So, but all is not lost, right? Because they still have the vision. They just need to rebrand, so they just go on 99 Designs and get a new logo, new domain. They're going to name the new company Aviato. And Aviato is going to go forth and try to take their digital marketing platform to market. Unfortunately, now they've blown all of their capital, and they need to seek outside investment from an angel investor. And so that's what they do. They go out on a fundraising mission to find someone to help provide some operating capital to make up for the fact that they've already blown a huge amount of their operating capital on a marketing campaign that was kind of cut short. And lo and behold, they find a former tech executive looking to park some cash with a promising startup. Everything's going great. The investor has $250K. He's only going to ask for 10% of the company in return. I mean, it's tantamount to a $2.5 million post-money valuation. They haven't even gone to market, so this is all really good news. It's what startup folks want to hear. What they don't want to hear is the next question that comes out of the angel investor's mouth, which is, so what happened with that lost founder? You've got an IP assignment locking down your IP, right? Well, not exactly. No IP assignment agreement from the founder, so that means that everything that founder did is kind of up in the air, right? So that means that the investor is only willing to, instead of giving $250,000 in exchange for 10%, they'll give $25,000 in exchange for 66%. That's actually kind of, you're lucky to do that if you're in this situation, because most investors would just turn around and walk away. But here they're going to get a nice little chunk of change to maybe have a shot at getting their technology up and running. So obviously 25K doesn't provide a lot of runway, right? So one of the things they're going to do is outsource all of their operations to independent contractors, doing away with the need for employees. I should keep up with my slides here. Whoop. That's not what I meant to do. They're going to use independent contractors. Will save a ton on employment taxes, no long-term employment commitments. Don't have to pay overtime. It's just a really great way to save money is what our friends at Aviato are thinking at this point. They're going to make that 25K really stretch out. So with the expanded team of independent contractors, white label technology license, new name, and a whole lot of vision, Aviato's ready to take flight. And for a brief time, everything seems to be going incredibly well. Advertisers and media companies are signing up, running large budgets through the platform, and generating some decent revenue. The company is not profitable yet, but the revenue projection is definitely headed in the right direction. Additionally, the independent contractor developers have been hard at work on the custom platform that I mentioned earlier, that they replaced the white label platform with. And so they're ready to stand that baby up and really go to market with their own intellectual property, with their own platform, and get rid of the subscription license that they've been laboring under for the last 11 months. Unfortunately, they realized that they missed their auto renewal. And so they're up for a whole another year of auto renewal on the white label platform that they just built a replacement for. So there goes your instant profitability. You would think that, oh, well, we're not going to be using the platform. Surely the technology company will let us out of this agreement. Rarely does that happen. Usually these auto renewal clauses are there for a reason, and they're there to ensure that these types of things actually happen. So getting out of a subscription agreement like this is extremely difficult. So, as I said, so much for profitability, but the entrepreneurial spirit of Aviato cannot be quashed. Time to pivot and tap into a whole new revenue stream, right? So with all of the media and advertiser contacts that the company has collected through its lead aggregation platform, their independent contractor CEO has a flash of brilliance and says, well, why don't we just go ahead and start launching advertising offers and campaigns to try to generate some revenue on the side to kind of support our bigger play of doing the digital marketing platform. And so Aviato looks for the highest payout offers it can find and the cheapest traffic on the market, and they end up launching a large homeopathic weight loss campaign on incentive co-registration traffic, and the conversions and the dollars just start rolling in. Followed shortly by a flood of consumer complaints, and even worse, an FTC civil investigative demand, which is something you never want to see in your mailbox, right? Turns out homeopathic weight loss products have been in the FTC's crosshairs for a long time, and Aviato's campaign used fictional consumer endorsements and unsupported efficacy claims. Now, the FTC wants Aviato to respond to a sweeping 20-page investigative demand looking into their marketing practices, their revenue, their consumer consent, and other details about the company's business. Not fun. Well, Aviato decides to try another pivot. They realize that they've gone down the homeopathic weight loss road and have not been successful. And so they look at all of their data that they've got sitting in their database, and they think, well, that's a lot of data. Why don't we just remarket to that data in another high payout vertical and you know, try to make up for lost time? So Aviato licensed its consumer phone data to an offshore call center, which proceeds to pound the numbers with offers from every conceivable vertical. Again, the conversions and the dollars start rolling in. And it's deja vu all over again. This time, the bad news comes in the form of a class action lawsuit filed by a consumer protection law firm under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Turns out Aviato failed to get prior express written consent and failed to scrub against the do not call list, so $1,500 per willful violation times 10,000 alleged violations starts to add up. It's almost real money. Now, Aviato finally decides to hire a law firm, and the law firm requires a $50,000 retainer for the FTC CID and a $150,000 retainer for the class action defense. Damn lawyers, right? Well, the company then finds out that the only thing worse than lawyers is the IRS, who slaps the company with a tax audit notice relating to the company's misclassification of independent contractors, of employees as independent contractors, and the company then therefore owes significant back taxes, fines, and penalties, and to make matters worse, several contractors decide to make claims for overtime on the ground that they were actually employees. So that pretty much puts the last nail in the coffin for Aviato, but they still have their technology, so hey, we've got this technology, maybe we can go out in a fire sale type situation, at least pay our lawyers' fees. Well, I am doing a terrible job of keeping up with that. Yeah, okay. So they take their technology to market to find somebody else who might want to purchase it, as I said, to cover their costs. But remember the original third founder that went off the grid and radio silent? Well, he's come back from a year-long backpacking vacation and has found himself and has decided that he really likes the fact that he owns a third of Aviato and wants his piece of whatever the founders can get for the technology. So just to recap, 66.6% to the angel investor for $25K, leaves 33.3% for the founders, and the one founder comes in at the end of the game and says, hey, what about me? He's entitled to a third, that leaves 0 for the other two guys. Not a good result. A very, very bad, horrible, no good year for this digital marketing company. But it does get worse. The FTC settlement with Aviato requires them to disgorge all profits, including all non-exempt personal property. This means bye-bye Rolex, bye-bye summer home, bye-bye fur coat. The settlement also restricts our founders from doing pretty much anything in the space ever again, so bye-bye career as well. Now, the punchline to this is that each and every problem that Pied Piper / Aviato experienced in that quick story could have been prevented had the founders had access to the digital marketer's legal toolkit that I'm going to give all of you today for free. So that is the end of my presentation, but I left hopefully enough time, 10 minutes, for some questions and comments from the audience on any of the issues that I raised. None of this is ringing a bell. I kind of think it is. Go ahead.
How aggressive are you seeing the FTC when it comes to marketing claims these days?
Well, I mean, under the current administration, it's pretty... Yes, I will. The question is, how aggressive are we seeing the FTC in terms of marketing claims, and what was the last piece? Disclosures. Well, I mean, ever since the 2009 endorsement guides came out, they've been very focused on making those types of testimonial and endorsement disclosures. For marketing claims, it's the bread and butter for the FTC. It's never going to go away. So it does vary, though, from administration to administration, and this administration is a fairly aggressive one. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else?
Actually, just to follow
Yeah,
up,
go ahead.
what would you generally see as a sort of typical outcome of a non-egregious violation, but one that they focus enough on to take action?
I think the best result that I've seen from a full-blown FTC investigation and when you get a CID, they pretty much have you already locked down as far as they have the evidence they need already to really proceed with an action. Typically, that is the case. So when that CID actually comes over, you are, it is an exercise in controlled capitulation, essentially. So the results are never good, right? But a modest fine and an agreement to not do those specific things that gave rise to the investigation, but still being able to do business in whatever space you're actually doing business, that's really about as good as it can get. And to get to that result, you need you need counsel that is that has a relationship with FTC folks and can vouch for their clients. It's kind of a weird insular world, where there's a level of trust that's built up between lawyers who engage in FTC practice. And so I think that's another critical part, is to really have someone who isn't looking at this investigation as a typical kind of bet the company litigation matter, but is rather kind of trying to collaborate with the FTC, which I know sounds weird, but that's really what's happening, to get to a reasonable result where the FTC can put a one in the win column, but the marketing company is still able to do business and move forward. Now, there are cases, of course, where there's no possibility. What the FTC wants is basically your destruction, in which case it's hard to play nice in that kind of environment, and yeah, you need a bulldog to go in there and represent you and get whatever you can. But in most cases, it's a fairly it's a negotiation that you engage in with the FTC.
Usually triggered by a consumer complaint?
Always triggered by not just one, but by
Multiple on the
yes.
same thing before they...
Yeah, it's totally driven by consumer complaints. I mean, it's an overstatement to say that, but that is absolutely the first thing they look at. Yep.
You said modest fine. What's a modest fine?
It's going to depend a lot on what the scope of the activity is that they're concerned about. If you are generating millions and millions of dollars on this activity, you're going to be lucky to get away with $1 million fine. I mean, lucky. But in a situation, for example, there was I guess a few years ago, there was a case brought against a mobile app developer who completely unwittingly violated COPPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and there was no evidence of any kind of willful intent or even harm to the consumer, but it was pretty clear violation of the statute. And they got, this is all public information, so it's not an attorney-client issue. They got out for $50,000, and they have to provide, I think it's annual reports and so forth. So that's a pretty modest, pretty positive result, I should say. Yeah. All things considered. I know $50,000 and almost as much in legal fees doesn't sound like a positive result, but it is good in comparison to what can happen. I think we got time for one more, or maybe two more questions. Yeah.
First, can you go back to slide just so we can remind us for the topics?
Yeah, I kind of forgot I had a PowerPoint presentation, so sorry about that.
And secondly, there's been some confusion, I think, amongst some of the affiliates, bloggers, merchants in the last couple of days. Who is required to disclose if they're being endorsed? Everyone? Only celebrities, not celebrities? Who does have to disclose that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when a party is endorsing or providing a testimonial for a product, the material connection between the endorser and the advertiser has to be disclosed, right? I mean, it's kind of common sense. If there are facts that would lead a reasonable person to believe that you might be biased to give that glowing review of whatever product, then that needs to be disclosed. Now, in the celebrity context in particular, there is a presumption in the law that says, okay, it's a celebrity. We know Kim Kardashian is not doing this for free. She doesn't do anything for free. So clearly, there's no need to disclose a material connection when Kim Kardashian is promoting a product in an ad. However, when she is promoting it, for example, in her Twitter feed or outside of the context of a strictly commercial environment, she absolutely has an obligation to, and it can be a very simple disclosure, hashtag sponsored ad or whatever the case is. I mean, it has to be clear and conspicuous. It has to be easy to understand, but that kind of a disclosure works. But if she is, if she is promoting this product outside of a context that most consumers would understand as commercial, then it needs to be disclosed. Yes?
What if that celebrity owns a piece of the company?
Would they have to disclose their ownership interest, or?
Yes, do they have to make any kind of disclosure? So, I'm promoting this.
I bought the company. Remember that old, what was it, Gillette or some razor? Or Norelco. I loved it so much I bought the company. No, I don't think they have to disclose their ownership interest per se, but
Like you said, this is an advertiser, hashtag whatever.
yeah.
Do they still need to make any sort of disclosure on Twitter if they were the owner? Like, not about them being an owner?
Oh, yes. I think the same endorsement rules would apply. I mean, it goes back to the original kind of concept of would a reasonable consumer understand that this is likely to be a biased opinion on the part of the endorser, whether it's a celebrity or not. We can talk more about it afterwards if you want. I can tell you're not completely satisfied with that answer. That's okay. Yeah.
For the average blogger that's running a CPA ad,
Yeah.
the nature of that ad coming from CJ or Amazon,
Right.
like that.
You're not touching the content. You're not building the creative. You're just kind of pulling it in and posting it. So what's your exposure is the question?
My question is, like, where does this liability
Yeah, right.
line?
Right. Yeah, so the question is for your everyday blogger who's just pulling ads off of affiliate network or whatever and posting those ads, to what extent does that blogger have liability? Not a lot. However, I think it's still useful to have a good comprehensive understanding of these rules, because even if you are pulling an ad and not doing anything to it, and you probably can claim a certain level of immunity from any liability, there's still a strong business rationale to understand, is this advertising making claims that are difficult to support or unsupportable? If so, then am I going to get paid everything I'm owed, or is this going to be, are they going to get dinged by the FTC mid-campaign and leave me hanging? Those types of things. So you're right that it's not a situation where you're probably not going to be getting the FTC civil investigative demand delivered to your address, but you don't want it happening upstream from you either. So it behooves you to kind of have that awareness. Is that all the time I've got? Yep. Okay, so I've got the toolkits up here, and anybody who wants it can have it, and I'll be out in the front here to chat if you guys want to chat. Thank you.